This is a one-speaker meeting. Please welcome our speaker tonight, the ever-popular and lovely Lauren.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm an alcoholic. I want to thank Richard for asking me to speak. He called me yesterday to confirm. I go, oh, no, I'm going through a really hard time. I think you should switch me out. And I said, oh, you show up anyway. So he called me today. I was like, yeah, hey, switch me out. And he called me up and he said, I think you should show up 15 minutes earlier. Okay. So I'm here. My home group's a nitty-gritty women's discussion in Sherman Oaks. I haven't lived in the Valley for years. Everyone always thinks I'm in the Valley because I say that. But it's my home group, so I go back there every Monday night. I'm secretary again right now. It's probably my 5th time being secretary. I was going to finally, I'd had it. I'd had it with the meeting. I was sick of it. I thought, what am I doing driving over the hill of the Valley during rush hour every Monday night, blah, blah, blah. But I was taught, and I was thinking there's this great women's step study on Monday night. It's earlier. I should switch to that. But I was taught that if you don't like a meeting, you should participate. So I became secretary, and I love it again. And it's not me. It's about my participation in it. And I was told if I didn't like a meeting, raise my hand, do something, take a commitment. And I've always had a commitment in Alcoholics Anonymous. I really want to welcome the newcomers. There's a lot of newcomers, so I'm glad I'm here for that reason only. When I came in, I was only an addict. And it was this big brouhaha. You couldn't share or participate if you were only an addict, and those meetings wouldn't be in the direct, I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. All I know is I caught alcoholism here. And so then I was an alcoholic addict, and I was told that saying I live in Los Angeles, California, in the United States of America. And so then I was supposed to, anyway, there's no rules if you're new, but there's a lot of people, and there's nobody in charge. Nobody's in charge. There's a lot of people that think they're in charge, but nobody's in charge. And, seriously, we were just talking about this Monday night. Like, if we need to share, we can share. It's not like, okay, I shared that already. No, we share stuff until we don't need to anymore. And it may come up again. It's like with the inventory. It's not, oh, I worked through that. I'll never have to work through it again. No, guess what? And when I came in, I don't know. I heard when... that was great. We'd all sit around, the newcomers would all sit around going, don't call on me to read, because newcomers always get called on to read. And then if we get called on, please don't have me read the 12 traditions, because nobody could pronounce anonymity. And you knew you'd been to enough meetings when you could do that. But when I heard chapter 5 read, all I heard was honesty, 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 honesty. I thought, oh my God, I'm never going to make it. Because I didn't get a whole bunch of stuff in Alcoholics Anonymous, but I heard that and I knew I was a liar. I was such a liar. I was a liar, cheat, and a thief before I ever had my first drink. I was a kind of liar that by the time a lie worked its way from my brain out my mouth, I believed it, I acted it out. I would defend my lies no matter what evidence you had that I was lying. And when I saw step 9, I thought, oh my God, does that mean we have to come clean on all our lies? And I was so scared of the steps. I thought I would never be able to do the 9 steps. Like, there was no way. And God puts the right people in our lives. This little old lady named Betty came up to me. I was so freaked out by step 9. And she said, honey, don't worry. The steps are written in order for a reason. She said, besides, when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, my whole family, including my husband, thought I only had 1 lung. And I thought, that's the kind of lying I did. I totally identified with that kind of a lying. And I will say the step I was the most afraid of, the 9th step, is the step that set me free. It completely and totally set me free, and I understand why the promises are written there and all of that. But if you're new, don't worry about it. Happy birthday, Bruce. So cool. When I was in my first year of sobriety, I was so miserable in my first year. I'm going to tell my story, don't worry. I was so miserable in my first year of sobriety. In fact, at 5 months of sobriety, I'd had it. I didn't know why I was staying sober. I was so miserable. The phone was disconnected. The utilities were turned off. I got dressed to go to a bar that had opened up around the corner, and on the way, I passed a payphone. And I called this girl from this women's meeting I was going to, and I said, I'm going to go drink. And she said, where are you? And I told her, and she came and got me, and she took me to the last 15 minutes of a meeting, and then she took me to get something to eat because I was too embarrassed to say I couldn't afford to eat, and I was hungry, and then she took me home. And I knew that night that you people will go to hell with me and back to help me stay sober, and if I want to drink, there's the door. And that's the night I decided that I was going to stay sober for 1 year. I'm out of here after that, but I wanted a cake. And so 5 minutes at a time, whatever increments I had to do, I was sticking around till I had a cake. And tomorrow's my birthday, so June 12th. Yeah, Richard's like, you want, anyway, never mind. So the morning I woke up with my 1 year, I went to a 9 a.m. meeting. I had a year. I'm not waiting until that night. I went to a 9 a.m. meeting at Chandler Lodge. I'd never been there before. And they gave cakes at the end of the meeting. I have no idea what happened in the meeting. And I stood there, and everybody in the room started singing happy birthday to me. And even though I hadn't been going to that meeting that whole year, I just started crying. I felt the love that you people had for me, even me. And even though you hadn't seen me go through everything I'd gone through in my first year and how hard it was to stay sober and all that, I knew that everybody in the room knew what I'd been through. And I just started crying, and people started crying, and then I started laughing, and people in the room started laughing. And it was the most incredible experience I've ever had. So if you're new, stick around just for cake. Okay, just come back one day at a time. We don't drink just for today. We don't take the first drink. The first drink gets us drunk, which I didn't get that at all. I'm way too tough. It's not my first drink. I can drink, Anyway, I didn't get a lot of the stuff, but I knew that once I start, I can't stop. I can't stop, and I don't care what it is. If it's, a drink, a line, whatever it is. I have the disease of more. I want more. My father says that when I was a little kid and I used to go to the movies, I go, I'm going to see that again and again and again and again. And I was like this with everything. So I was told when I came in, if I'm going to a function, to have a drink in my hand. And always make sure and smell it first, even if I set it down and I have to pick it up, that I should always smell it first. But, I drink so much Diet Coke, people freak out about it, but it's like, whatever. 8 o'clock's my cutoff time, no more caffeine. So, anyway, and my life today, I wake up in the morning, and my kids, I don't wake up. My kids wake me up in the morning, and they come bounding in my bed. I have little kids. It is the greatest thing in the world. And I taught them since they're 2 that if it doesn't say 7, it's too early to wake mommy. But they don't care. And anyway, so they come running in, and my son first, and they're playing with the dogs on the bed and everything, and they're jumping in, and they're telling me stories, and it's just incredible. I love you, mommy. And I can sit there and go, I love you too. And this is how I get to wake up every single day. And it's the greatest thing ever. And I gave my daughter for her 8th birthday a puppy, a 7-week-old puppy. Okay, some people, actually, I tell that to them, they go, I didn't get a puppy when I turned 8. This was so not about you. Seriously, I can't even tell you how many people said that to me. I have a really good daughter. She's responsible. She's good. She deserved a puppy. Her little brother on the hand, can I have one? Can I have one? I'm like, we'll wait and see when you get there. Anyway, and they know, go in the backyard. I have a house. That might mean anything to any of you guys, but when you hear my story, you'll be like, wow, you have a house. And that took me a long time. It was all slow. It was all really slow. So June's a really big birthday month. You'll see there's so many birthdays in June. The last couple of weeks of May, I didn't see any cakes. So if you're new, it's a really good month to stay sober. What I think it is, I brought my friend Corey's here with me. Her birthday's the same as my father, January 2nd. Okay, they're done. Okay, they're done. People come between New Year, Christmas, and New Year's, and right around then, they're done. June, our New Year's resolutions, they didn't hold out. Okay. All right, so I'll tell my story. I was taught, if you're new, to look for the similarities and not the difference in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm one of those people that I always felt different. I never felt like I fit in anywhere. I thought I was, even with my own family, I thought I was probably really adopted, and I wanted this family that I was growing up with. I just didn't feel a part of ever. And I wanted my real family, since I thought I was secretly adopted, I wanted my real family to come and take me away from this family I was growing up with. And I don't know. I never felt comfortable even walking in my parents' bedroom. It was everything's my memory, at least, of things, and I don't remember a lot. I seriously thought I had the worst childhood ever until I came in here and heard all of your stories. Okay, it wasn't that bad. But it was, it's my perception. And I came in with so much anger and hatred. Hatred towards my parents, especially my mom. I hated them. And I heard when I came in that they did the best they could with what they had. And so much of that dissipated. It just I went, wow, yeah, that's true. They did the best they could with what they had. It doesn't mean I didn't have to work the steps and all of that, but a lot of that went away. So I always felt different. I didn't feel like I fit in. I never felt a part of anything. I had a lot of little kids around me, but I never had that one best girlfriend, that one friend that you tell everything to, because I knew even when I was a little girl that something was wrong with me, that if you knew me, and I mean really knew me, you'd run or I'd be locked up, that something was fundamentally wrong with me. And my first sponsor used to talk about alcoholism is a disease of loneliness. It's the hole in the gut. It's being in a room full of people and feeling totally alone. My parents were totally into their social life. At 5 o'clock every night it was cocktail hour, and we weren't allowed in the kitchen. And there was no telling when we would eat, and it was just really annoying to my brother, sister, and I. And we didn't have rules. We never had a time to be home. When my sister and I would be out with all the other little kids in high school and stuff, and everybody would call their parents and say we're coming home late, we would pretend like we were calling. We were not allowed to call and wake them up. We just had no rules at all. And my mom went to one PTA meeting once, and she took me with her. And at this PTA meeting, the speaker talked about the middle child syndrome, how the oldest gets all the privileges and the youngest gets all the attention. So don't forget the middle child. And I thought, that's what's wrong with me. That's why I feel different, because I'm the middle child. And until I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, that's what I thought it was. Today I know when I'm feeling like that separate and apart from, that's my alcoholism, and that I need to do something different to change it. So I completely related to that when I came in. The other thing is, and I started talking about that before, is I am a liar, cheat, and thief. It is just who I naturally am. I think if you hear anything good, kind, and decent from me up here, it's learned behavior. I learned it here in Alcoholics Anonymous, because that is so not who I came in as. I used to lie about everything, everything. If I was going to my friend Helen's house, I said I was going to 7-Eleven. I mean, it didn't matter if it deserved a lie or not, I would lie. My father used to say, if you can't lie well, don't lie at all, and I took that as a challenge. And you know, when I flew back east to make my amends, we didn't talk about anything in my family, anything at all. Everything was fine. We were fine. We don't talk about things. And anyway, I went back east to make amends to my parents. Again, that ninth step I was so afraid of. But my mom kept saying my parents loved that I was sober. They loved that I was in AA. My mom used to call me and go, I'm from the D.C. area, okay? I'm not from the West Side. And my mom used to call me and go, I met somebody in AA named such and such. Do you know her? No. Anyway, but it was always about she used to introduce me. This is my daughter Lauren. She's in Alcoholics Anonymous. Isn't that great? They loved that I was sober. Anyway, I went back to make amends to my parents, and I remember she goes, no, it's okay, Mom, we have to talk. No, it's okay, you're sober. And I go, no, I need to talk to you and everything. No, it's fine. It was back and forth like that for a while, and finally I said, Mom, if I don't do this, I could drink again. She said, sit down. And she knew everything. It was really incredible. Like, she knew everything. She knew all the lies were lies except one, which just blows me away. I pretended like I had busted my knee playing football at the beach. I am from the D.C. area. The beach is 3 hours away, and I've never played football. I mean, I may toss it around kind of, sort of, in the backyard with my kids now. But back then, they had, it wasn't arthroscopic surgery. It was a big deal. And I'd visited this guy in the hospital, and everyone was getting him loaded and keeping him loaded and everything. And so I went to the medical supply store and bought one of those big knee immobilizer things. And under it, I wrapped it with my knee with an ace bandage really tight, and then it swelled and bruised and everything. Anyway, I pretended like I had, and crutches, the whole thing. That was the only thing that she's like, Lauren, like, my mom was she's passed away. She passed away when I had 10 years of sobriety, but she was so honest. That one just freaked her out. Anyway, so if you're a liar, you can get better here. So I was a liar, cheat, and thief. I started stealing in 2nd grade because some little girl showed me how you could take things and leave. And I like to think that most little kids would think, this is stealing, this is wrong, like including my daughter. My daughter's such a good girl. I'm sure she would. I'm always so scared. Everything from when she was born, and then even with my son, anything they do. The first time I took her to the beach, and the wave came, and they're like standing there, so maybe one, and then the wave went back out, and then the wave came again, and she goes, wow, more, like she wanted more and more. I go, uh-oh, everything they do, I think they're alcoholic. My son downed his bottle and sat it down. I go, oh, we're dead, right here. He still drinks like that. He just turned 5. I'm always like, ah. Anyway, so I just started stealing, and I got busted by my parents in 4th grade. There was a strip mall, and I had gone into the grocery store and taken a brown grocery bag, and I went to each store, and I just filled it. and the Hallmark store and all that stuff. Anyway, my parents found 2 full grocery bags full, and it was one of those times I go, Lauren, like my allowance did not cover this stuff. And they go, Lauren, what is this? And it was one of those times I just couldn't come up with anything. Like, there's no lie. I'm in 4th grade. And they knew I stole it. And what they did is they made me go back to the stores and tell the owner or manager, whoever it was, that I had stolen this stuff. And I went to each store, and in the last store I remember thinking, if I cry now, they'll probably really believe that I'm sorry. And I started crying like, oh yeah, Lauren, yeah. I mean, I was still on restriction, don't get me wrong, but I didn't have true, honest feelings about anything. And in 6th grade, I got busted by Montgomery wards, and the whole 6th grade found out, and I was so embarrassed. And I remember this guy, David Mills, said, I heard what you did. And I looked at him because he was tough, and I go, I heard what you did too. And he shut up. I have no idea what he did. I never heard. So, anyway, and the only other lying thing I will tell is when in 6th grade, they have those safety patrols they have back east where you wear this bright orange badge, and you put your arm out, and when it's safe for the kids to cross, you kind of let them cross and stuff like that. Well, there was a flasher, like raincoat flasher, going around flashing all the little girls' safety patrols. And so one day I go running into school, and I go, I was flashed. The police were called, and they took a statement and all that. And that flasher was caught, and he admitted to flashing all the little girls' safety patrols, except me, because I had made it up. He hadn't flashed me. But you know, I was never talked to about any of that. Anyway, my first drink was a relief. This is all before my first drink. And I tell you that because it made me feel better when somebody else was sharing something like that. Because I've listened to a lot of inventories, and I know I've always sponsored a lot of women. We have a step study once a month that we've had, oh my gosh, probably 11 years now, once a month at my house. And I mean, it's cool, it's fellowship. And but anyway, I've heard a lot of things that people do behind the drinking. This is all before from my first drink. So anyway, it made me feel better to hear stuff like this. My first drink, I stole a flask from my parents. I filled it with J&B. I went out in the woods and I took a big old swig and I set it down. I hated the taste. It was so gross. But then that feeling came over me. And I've heard a lot of women talk about how they became tall, blonde, and beautiful and felt like that. That's not what happened for me. That feeling came over me, and I didn't care what I looked like. I didn't care if you liked me. I didn't give a shit about anything. I was apathetic as hell, and I love not feeling. I blacked out the first time I ever drank. I thought everybody, I never heard the term blackout till I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. I thought everybody who drinks, you just don't remember. Like, I just never heard the term. And when my head would mess with me and say, oh, you're not really an alcoholic, you're just a drug addict, and all that stuff that our heads tell us, I would think, okay, normies don't black out. Like, there were certain things I would tell myself, and I would also tell myself, if I'm not an alcoholic, it doesn't matter if I don't drink. None of this is original. It doesn't matter if I don't drink, because people who aren't alcoholics don't care if they drink or not, so just don't drink anyway. Anyway, so I don't know if that made sense, but it made sense to me. That could be scary. Anyway, so I was off and running. When I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, everybody used to ask me, did you graduate from high school? And I was so offended. Of course I graduated from high school. I was the first person in my family to not go to college. But really, you know, asking me if I had graduated high school was a valid question. I would be so incensed. How dare you? Of course I graduated high school. I mean, I never knew anybody who didn't graduate high school. Like, what the heck? Anyway, who did I think I was? But I was never in school. I was always partying and always out in the woods. I don't even remember junior high or high school. They have those senior superlative things for your senior year, most likely to succeed and best dressed and all those things. I was voted most fried and slickest skipper in my high school graduating class. And I remember my mother saw that and said, what's most fried, Lauren? I'm like, never mind. And my parents wouldn't send me to school, to college, and I was pissed, and I was going to show them. Because I'd go visit my older sister in college. She was in everything in high school, and she was in everything in college. But I didn't see the work and the studying and all that. All I saw was the parties, the great alcohol and all of that. And I was so mad my parents weren't sending me to this big party, 4-year party. So I went and got a job. And in Bill's story, he's talking about when he started working and how he says, I had arrived. And I got a job in sales, and I set some national sales records pretty quickly. And the home office in Pennsylvania found out about me, and I felt like I had arrived. My parents were proud of me. They bought me a briefcase. They were really proud of me that I was doing something. And even though they didn't want me in their house anymore because I stole too much, but anyway, and the money's kind of delayed, and I quit showing up for that job. And anyway, what ended up happening when I was 19 years old, I ended up getting arrested in the town I grew up in. And I remember this time I was arrested. I was with my hands behind my back and my cigarettes in my jeans jacket pocket, and I remember being so incensed. How dare you arrest me? Don't you know who I am? I always, every time I was arrested, I was just like, how dare you? I mean, don't you know who I am? And today, thank God, I know who I am. I'm just another child of God. I'm no better and I'm no worse than anyone else, and what a relief. And I love that saying, no matter, an alcoholic's the only person that can be lying in the gutter looking down at others. Because it didn't matter how low I went. I mean, that was me. Anyway, so while I was in this jail cell, they let me make one phone call, and I had no one to call. I had used up everyone. I had scammed on my parents' friends. All my friends who were going to college locally had done the number where they walked me all night so I didn't fall asleep and die and all that kind of stuff. And I had just run way too many scams, and I didn't really have anybody to call. And I decided the problem was the kind of people I'd been hanging out with. A nice girl like me wouldn't end up in a place like this if I quit hanging out with the kind of people I'd been hanging out with. Now, I was all alone when I got arrested, but I really thought it was the kind of people I was hanging out with. And that's when I decided that I needed to move. The problem was living in the D.C. area and all that stuff in Maryland, and it's called a geographic if you're new. And what I did is I moved to Miami. Not a good place to straighten up, just my experience. And anyway, I got a job right away. I opened a checking account because I was raised right. And that's such a big part of my story is this little starter checks I'd write. If I had checks, I was writing. It didn't matter if there was money or not. I was always writing checks. Anyway, I ended up down in the Keys. I ripped off a few people I shouldn't have ripped off, and I had to get out of there. It's amazing to me that we lived through some of the stuff we lived through. At the time, I was just like, ooh, this is fun. Anyway, I bounced around this country, and in some parts of the country, I'd end up in jail. Sometimes I'd end up in the hospital. My family wasn't speaking to me during this time, but I'd make sure they get all the hospital bills. So even though they weren't talking to me, I wanted them worried about me. I was the daughter from hell. And by the time I got to California, all I had left was one of those little nylon zip-up bags of my dog. And I lived in an abandoned house in North Hollywood, and I slept on a dirt floor. And I still thought, if I quit hanging out with the kind of people I'd been hanging out with, a nice girl like me will get out of this. And that's not my bottom. I mean, we're survivors in here. I worked selling clothes on Hollywood Boulevard, and I had to take a bus. I do not remember what state I left my car in, but and the bus would let me off at this place called Little Tony's. I called it my straight period. It was my straight period. I only drank beer. I couldn't believe you guys didn't drink beer, okay? Okay, and everything else, but beer is not drinking. How do you watch a game? Like, I just couldn't even fathom it. That and no champagne. What happens when I get married? I wasn't engaged or anything when I came in. I was really worried about my wedding and how am I going to toast? And if you're new, you can get married. It's fun. Oh my God, I just got ordained. I'm a reverend. I went online. I want to marry people. I went online. I swear to God, I got an email. Hello, or congratulations, Reverend Lauren Abrams. I'm like, wow, something doesn't mesh with that. I'm Jewish. Anyway, I swear to God. I can show you the email on my phone. Anyway, I'm a huge sports fan. I wanted to be the first female professional umpire. I went to umpire school back east, and but you had to my rookie season, you had to ump 2 games. I couldn't stay sober through 2 full games, and by the end of the second game, they used to go, "You missed a good game, Blue," and stuff like that. So, anyway, I was a huge sports fan. So. The abandonment, it's not my bottom, but the bus would drop me off at this place called Little Tony's, where Lancashire and Camarillo and I don't know, all these streets intersect there. And I would go in there and I'd eat a piece of pizza or whatever, and I would write. Again and again. I don't want you. Just leave me alone. My whole thing was, I'll be fine. Just leave me alone. Like, I don't want you. I don't need you. Leave me alone and I'll be fine. And I had nothing to do with anyone during this time. And like I said, that's not my bottom. I found a drug dealer to move in with on Hollywood, right around Highland and Fountain. And the next 3 years, I lived in a complete and total hell. It didn't matter how much I drank or used. I didn't get drunk. I just got weird. I was paranoid. I was hallucinating. I was out of my mind crazy. They were out there, and I was having grandma alcoholic seizures. If you touched me, I bruised. I wish I was dead. I remember being, even as a little girl, not knowing why I'd been born and wishing I could just go to sleep and never wake up. My goal in life was just to live hard and die young. I didn't know why I'd been born. And at this point, this drug dealer had gotten busted. I was living in this tiny little apartment in Encino, which is a nice area now, but it wasn't. It was at Woodley and Ventura. There was nothing there. And I was living in this little apartment where if you fold out the couch into a bed, it hits the wall. There was a fridge and the bathroom and a closet. And I used to call the cops on myself, basically. Like, I was just crazy. And I had tried to kill myself. I was having these grand mal seizures. I had Dilantin and stuff. I took all the Dilantin, and I couldn't eat. Obviously, I didn't die. But I lost all muscle control in my body, and I tried to kill myself about 3 times, and I couldn't even do that right. And what happened was my last drink is, oh, wow, it's tonight, like, kind of, June 11th. Anyway, my last drink is so uneventful. If I had known it was my last, I probably would have done it up or something. But anyway, I was just sitting there reading a book, and I finished the book, and I had what we call in Alcoholics Anonymous my moment of clarity. I was out of everything. I didn't have any drugs. I didn't have any alcohol in my house. But at that moment, it was like I was out of myself looking down, and I knew at that moment that I was the worst person on the face of this earth. I knew nobody was as bad as me. Nobody had done the kinds of things I had done. Nobody had lied the way I had lied, and I wanted to die more than anything, and I couldn't even do that right. And I didn't know about Alcoholics Anonymous. I never thought of Alcoholics Anonymous. If I had thought of it, which I didn't, I would have thought of a bunch of old men in trench coats with a bottle in a brown bag. And I called this 800 number that ended up being a hospital referral service. And I ended up on the phone with Daniel Freeman Marina Hospital. And they stayed on the phone with me all night, and I had this guy that I was kind of scamming and using, I had him, he hotwired a car, because I thought everybody from New York hotwired cars, so I didn't even think about it. Anyway, he dropped me off at the hospital. He goes, just be as honest as you can be. And I went in there, and now this is my perception, okay, of somebody, day one, or whatever it was. I'm actually not sure of the dates. I always look at my writings things. So I'm definitely, it's sometime around now. Anyway, I went in there, they start doing the intake, and I'm going, oh my God, what if they're narcs? What am I doing? What have I got myself? Like, everything starts going, so I cut my quantities and do all this. And then at the end of the intake, they go, okay, and we'll need a deposit. I'm like, oh, no problem, how much? And I write them a check. And like the check was any good. I mean, that check wasn't good. Oh, there's a shocker. Why places like that take checks from people like us is beyond me. That unit went under. Ooh, big surprise. And it was the focus unit. If there's another unit there, I mean, whatever. The one I went through went under. Anyway, and then so I went through all the intake stuff and everything, and they said, do you want a Valium? I said, only one? Of course. Like, and then they gave me one. I'm like, one? And anyway, I went through the detox and everything, and what happened is they ended up taking us to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm one of those people from my very first meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. I felt like I had come home. I found out I wasn't a bad person, that I'm a sick person. There's a way for me to get well. I heard somebody talking up here like I'm talking right now, and I couldn't believe it. We never talked about how I just couldn't even believe it. And they were telling, some people would tell stories of things they'd done that were worse than me, and some that weren't as bad. But what I heard was the music of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I've kept coming back ever since then. And that was June 12th, 1986, so I'll be 22 tomorrow. And just because I felt like I had come home does not mean the obsession to drink and use left me. I was crazy. I was so crazy. But I got a sponsor right away because everyone kept saying, do you have a sponsor? Do you have a sponsor? Do you have a sponsor? So I got a sponsor right away, and in my first week, and she said, okay, and she was going through some basic stuff like, you have to make your bed every day. I go, why? She said, so you don't get back in it. I go, okay. And she said I had to open my curtains every day. And she said, I don't care if you believe in God or not. Like, she didn't, it was such a non-issue to her, but I mean, somebody told me, and I thought it was a secret just for me, I didn't know it was in the literature, that they're going to talk about God at these meetings. They didn't even tell me what kind of meetings. And for you, it's probably best if you just use the group as a higher power. And I was like, so that was okay. And I could do that. But she didn't even care. And I said, how'd you know I have blackout curtains? She said, never mind. She goes, you open those curtains every day, and you thank God for the privilege to breathe in and out clean and sober breath. And she went through all this stuff. She said, now you go find a woman with less time than you, and you tell her how you're staying sober. I go, but I'm in a rehab. I had 7 days at the time. She said, you can still get loaded. I go, I can? And really, I had no idea. And anyway, I went and found this girl with 3 days. I go, hi, I'm Lauren. I have 7 days. And she told me her name, and she had 3 days. And I started talking, and then she started talking. And when she started talking and I was listening to her, I got one of the biggest gifts of this program, because for 30 seconds or whatever it was, I was listening to her. And during that time, I wasn't thinking about me, and what a relief. What a relief. And I'm one of those people, I figured since I had never heard about Alcoholics Anonymous, I thought nobody had heard about AA. And I would go into those dark bars and go, you don't have to do this, you can go to AA, it's free. And I'd be handing out literature and all this. My spouse was like, no, it's attraction, not promotion. And I got a commitment right away. I got a lot of commitments. I've never been without a commitment in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I was told if I want to drink or use, I need to tell somebody. I don't let it build and grow and fester in my head that I need to tell somebody. And I can remember going to a meeting and going, I want to drink. No, I know. I always wanted to do. Anyway, I went one day, I go, I want to use heroin. And this guy goes, well, think it through. I go, I can't. I never used it. I heard somebody talking about it in a meeting. I thought maybe I missed something and everything. And I'm like, just keep coming back, honey. And at the end of the meeting, you guys say the Lord's Prayer. Well, I'm Jewish. We certainly don't say it, and I don't know the words. But I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't know I'd earned my seat, or I didn't know. And so at the end of the meeting, when we all hold hands, I would just move my lips. Because, of course, you were all looking at me and making sure I was saying the Lord's Prayer. Who knows. And I heard this girl say when I was new that we could do or be anything we want. Anything at all. The sky's the limit. As long as we don't drink and we don't use one day at a time, we suit up and show up for life, which that took me a few years to get. And I knew how to call in sick. I could suit up and show up for Alcoholics Anonymous. The life part took quite a while. And that we work with others and we're of service. And I never had any goals, dreams, or aspirations. I never wanted to do anything but live, my only goal was to be dead at 25, and I was 26 when I got sober, so that one was gone. And when my utilities and all that I was talking about earlier were turned off, my sponsor lent me money, and she told me to quit hanging out with the terminally unemployed at Radford's noon meetings and go get a job. And I went and got a job waiting tables, which I thought was so beneath me. Don't you know who I am? Just that whole thing. And she said I had to keep that job till I had a year of sobriety. 1 year and 1 day of sobriety, I quit that job. And I had saved up $400 and was able to get a car. I only had a motorcycle when I came in. My kids are never allowed to know that. Ever. Anyway, so funny. It's totally different now. Anyway, my mom used to have a picture of me on my bike, and I'm like, they're never gonna know. Anyway, so I saved $400 and I got a car, and I was able to go back into sales and just get this little sales job. And from one sales job, I'd get a little bit better one. And I used to call my sponsor. I'd get it was off. Everything was very slow for me. I'd call my sponsor and go, such and such took a 60-day chip and she got a new car. And I'd call it. I would always be calling her, telling her what people got. And she said, what we get in Alcoholics Anonymous is a privilege to stay clean and sober. The rest is icing. Now go find a newcomer. Tell her how you're doing it. And she had no, and it is. It's all icing, and it's absolutely amazing. So from one sales job, I got a little bit better sales job. At 3 years of sobriety, I had opened this little business with another sober woman. I was sponsoring 5 women. My business went under. I had this thing in my car that said, God never gave us a dream without giving us the strength to carry it out. And my parents flew me back east because I had made the amends, and they said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to go to college. And this girl, Ginny, I saw her come in, and she started going to college, and she didn't know how to read when she got sober, and I thought, I know how to read. And so I went to Pierce College in the Valley, and there's a big sign. It says, information. I used to have to scope everything out. I knew everything. I couldn't ask for help. And one of the greatest gifts in this program is, first of all, it's way faster to just go, hey, how'd you do that? Than to scope it all out and learn and figure it out. It's just faster. Anyway, I went to where it says information. I go, I want to go to school. What do I do? And the woman told me what to do. And those of you who've done school and sobriety said it's a lot easier if you go to class. I go, okay. And I thought, I can't do it. I'm too stupid. I'm too stupid. I'm too stupid. I'm never going. I burned out way too many brain cells. I'm not going to be able to do this. And I was told to do it like the program. I'd sit front row center. My sponsor said, we sit front row center. That's where the winners sit. The winners are people that want sobriety more than anything. They're not people with the cars and all that. It's the people that sobriety is their priority. And so I would go to school. I remember my first class was a social class over the summer. The teacher sucked, but I didn't know that at the time because what did I know? I never went to school. And anyway, I would go home and I would read a paragraph, then I'd read the second paragraph, and I already forgot what the first paragraph said, and I go, oh my God, I'm too stupid. And I was told the brain's a muscle and it just needs some exercise. I thought mine might have atrophied. But anyway, I started going to school and I loved it, and I was doing telemarketing selling drill bits. I put myself through college selling drill bits on the phone, working for the nicest man in the world. And so I'd been at Pierce for a little while. They said, you need to figure out where you're going to transfer to, and I decided I wanted to go to UCLA. We had a good football team. And then I wanted to be a communications major because I liked all the stuff listed under it. And then I found out the communications major at UCLA only takes 100 people a year, and of that 100, only 25 from outside of UCLA. And I was looking for another major when this guy in the program said, they take 25 people a year from outside of UCLA, and I said, yeah. He said, why not you? and that never would have occurred to me. And I graduated in 1994 from UCLA as a communications major, and you guys all came, and seriously, to this day, that is like my biggest, I got to speak at the graduation, and in 1997, I graduated from USC Law School, and December 8th, 1997, I got sworn into the bar for the state of California, and I have a card that says I'm morally fit. I have so many. I also got I went at night for my master's degree and did all this stuff, but with all that, forget it. My card that says I'm morally fit to practice, that's enough for me. And my very first job, when I was clerking right after law school, and I was working for the DA, prosecuting us, sending us all here. It's the one time I really kept my anonymity. And my first day on the job, I went and I was standing there, you know, getting ready, and the DA that's coming to train me goes, "Oh, no, Lauren, we're over here. We're not over there. We're over here." I went, "Oh, I'd never been over there." I don't practice any criminal law. Don't ask me any questions. Like, that was only for them. Anyway, and I got married in sobriety, and it was really fun, and I loved being married, just not to him. And we were married for over 10 years, and we were together, I feel like, most of my adult life, I guess it was. And we have two amazing, amazing kids that live with me, and I get along great with him, but, I mean, I have full custody. He can come see him whenever he wants. It's just he's older. And I have 5 step-kids from him that are much older, and I have, you know, I have that fullness, and we stay sober no matter what. My mom died when I had 10 years of sobriety, and thank God for this program and the steps, that I was able to make those amends and go fly back east, and she'd drive me to meetings, and to have that kind of 10 years of experience. Everyone doesn't get that, and I'm really, really blessed. I mean, the saddest thing for me is that that she didn't get to meet my kids, although it was kind of freaky, because my kids would say when they're really young, "I've met your mom, Mommy. Why are you sad?" I'm like, okay, that's a little weird. Okay, anyway, I just want to tell one story. When and you know, and what we get, and if you're new, it might not thrill you, but it thrills me, is we get a full life. I do more in a day. Let's see, so then my kids wake me, I do all this stuff in the morning, drive the carpool and do all this, come home. I didn't have to drive preschool today, but then I got to chaperone my daughter's field trip, and then I've learned, don't take the bus with the kids, take my car there, and then I can go to work from there, get to work, you know, do it, and now I'm here. Like, that's more than I used to do in a year, never mind a month. Like, I never did anything. And the day before I turned 20, okay, so it's 2 years ago today, so it would have been my birthday tomorrow. So the day before I turned 20, I had 3 parties, and I've got the kids in their car seats in the back, and I could see them in the thing. And I hear Molly, my daughter, telling her little brother, "Mommy's talking to God again." And I hear he's asking, "What's God?" And she goes, and it's always with attitude. Even if 5 little girls have attitude, with attitude. She goes, "Oh, you can't see God. You can only feel God, like the wind or like love. That's God." And then they start kind of making jokes back and forth. Is this God? Is that God? Anyway, and I'm just like, I'm just praying to God to please get me through one more party. And if you're new and the God stuff turned you off, my sponsor did not care, and she just told me to read chapters of the Agnostic, chapter 4, again and again and again. And that works for me using the group. And this one man named Spence used to let me borrow his higher power, which I thought was so incredible. And I absolutely, totally believe in a God and an energy and a spirit. And if you don't believe, you can borrow mine anytime, right now. And anyway, so my daughter, she looks at me and she says, "Mommy, does God make dreams come true?" And I look in my rearview mirror at the 2 of them back there, and I see their faces, and she says, "Besides us, Mommy." My kids know they're loved. On Mother's Day, they had a thing to fill out. What's your mom love to do? Play with me and my little brother, Brett. What makes your mother happy? Coming home and playing with me and my little brother, Brett. Like, they know. I love being with them. But they also know, and I remind them, you know, they don't know what kind of meetings I go to. They know I go to meetings. And anyone who knows me knows I go to a meeting on Monday night. Like I said, I mean, of course, I go to other meetings. But I'm always at my Monday night and my Saturday morning meeting. And my daughter asked me, "Well, it's Monday, why do we have a babysitter?" I said, "It's Monday night." She said, "You have to go to the Valley again?" I go, "Yeah." And she said, "How long have you been going?" I go, "A long time." She said, "Well, then that's long enough, isn't it?" And I'm like, believe me, you don't want me to quit going there. I was taught that my sobriety is a first domino. And if that domino goes, all the other stuff in my sobriety goes. And my sobriety comes first. And how you get from where I was, a falling down, hopeless, wanting to die, alcoholic. I was 83 pounds, having grand mal seizures, paranoid, out of my mind crazy to where I stand before you today with pride and a dignity and a self-respect that you can't buy, but that all of us get through working the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous is here in this room. It's impossible, but we're all miracles. And it's a product. I am absolutely a product of Alcoholics Anonymous. Yesterday was Alcoholics Anonymous birthday, June 10th. And, you know, thank God for Dr. Bob and for Bill W. that we can stand here today and just keep carrying it on. And, you know, I mean, I was telling somebody who was having trouble with somebody she sponsors, I said, I don't know, I've been 100% successful as a sponsor. She said, what? Because, like, I mean, I've sponsored so many women, some have died. Like, and I go, yeah, I'm still sober. And that's how it works. I just keep giving it away, and hopefully somebody gets it. So anyway, thanks again, Richard, for asking me to come speak.